You're listening to the Next Team podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Next Team podcast. I'm your host Vikas, and as you can see, I've changed my webcam setup a little. So I hope you enjoyed the side of my face, and I hope now you enjoy the new side of
Mhm.
watching my whole face with my new front-facing camera. And of course, we are joined by the boys Tarun and Yash in yet another cricket episode. And yeah, I mean, we were supposed to upload sometime earlier this week, but of course we were busy and got caught up with our own schedules. And of course, our very own Yash is actually at the World Cup itself. He's actually managed to catch a couple of matches, which we'll be covering in the podcast as well. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. But oh yeah, before that, as usual, be sure to check us out on our social media platforms. We are available on Instagram and YouTube, and also available on TikTok, as well as Spotify as well. I know I jumbled up the order of things, but you guys know where to check us out. And once again, thank you for your support in terms of the shouts from the stands as well. We didn't get an overwhelming amount of responses, but we still got responses, and that's what matters. And we'll be talking about that sometime later in the show as well. But yeah, with that, we can just get straight into it. And what bigger fixture to talk about than the India-Pakistan game, which
Mm.
happened last week? And of course, our man Yash was in the 130,000 lucky fans who witnessed it live.
Mm.
So
I don't
Yash,
think it
please
was
take.
quite 130,000 though.
I was pretty
Ha
close. I think it was pretty
no,
close.
no, it did. I saw
Wasn't
there's
it?
plenty of empty seats. Yeah, there's quite a
Oh,
few
okay.
empty seats around. I think it's probably around like 100,000. I don't think it's like 130,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so
Mhm.
tell us your experience. How was it, man?
Yeah, it was great, man. Like, I mean, as an Indian fan, it's probably like a dream come true to watch India-Pakistan
Yep.
match. And yeah, I was really fortunate to even get the tickets in the first place
Mm-hmm.
because the crazy demand of the people to get the tickets for this game.
Yep.
And I had to do like a really long journey to get there first of all because like I had like a 7 hour layover in Chennai, which I made very good use of by visiting our very lovely Chepak Stadium in Chennai.
Oh, you actually managed to
So
go to the stadium solid. Okay.
yeah. I had like a 7 hour layover, so I just went there for like a quick couple hours to check it
Okay.
out and get back. Yeah. But
That's
anyways,
cool.
coming back to the
Mhm.
game, like yeah, the experience was great, man. Like I think everything was pretty well organized in Ahmedabad at least.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say at least is you viewers will know soon, pretty sure why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. I think the match was pretty interesting until the 30th over, I would say, because
Yep.
Pakistan were looking really good. Like they scored like I think 152 for two, and
Mm-hmm.
then in I think 29th over they lost Babar Azam,
Exactly.
and yeah, after that they just collapsed, man. Like I don't know what is it with Pakistan. Like I honestly like in the stadium, right? The stadium was absolutely silent because they were playing so good. Babar and Rizwan were playing so good. Babar just reached his 50. Rizwan was going
Yep.
to reach his 50 very soon. And me just speaking to like a few fans beside me, they're saying that, yeah, Pakistan's going to score above 300 easily.
Yep.
Yeah. Because at that stage, like 150 in like 29 overs, it's a pretty good score. You think about the
Oh,
last 20,
absolutely.
especially with the batting power they're supposed to have. They're supposed to reach 300 at least.
For sure, for sure. I mean, I think where they lost the game was having two set batsmen, and of course, Babar throwing away his wicket, probably in
Mm,
not the best, way possible. I guess he was trying to run it down to third man, and he got bowled
yeah.
off Siraj,
Yeah.
top of off, right? Of course,
Mm.
like the collapse itself was very disappointing for myself as well because I really wanted. I mean, okay, till this point, even the game so far, India has been just coasting through every single game, and for once I thought, okay, let's get a close chase. Let's see how India do when they chase something above 300.
Mm.
Because if we are able to chase that, then I think that says that puts us in good stead, and also from a neutral watching point of view, not even if I'm not an Indian fan, at least it it makes for great viewing, right? The match itself.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
of course that was very disappointing in how they collapsed, but also credit to India. I think the bowling was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Bumrah in the middle,
absolutely. I
Bumrah in the
think
middle,
that
and
credit you have
Kuldeep.
to give it. Yeah, that credit you have to give it to Rohit Sharma as well. Like the way
Hmm.
he utilizes bowlers. Like he knew that when he needs a wicket, he called his key reliable bowlers, Bumrah and Siraj, to
Yeah,
come in and get the wickets and did it. And they just never let like how to put let Pakistan settle after they lost Babar.
Hmm.
They made sure that on one end you had a pacer, and on the other end there was I think Kohli, Bajentu, and someone who's always bowling. And I think that was a match where everyone got 2 wickets. I think, apart from I can't remember. I think Shardul or Hardik. I think one of them.
Yep, yep. I think everyone
Yeah,
performed in that match.
yeah,
And I mean, it was a very good clinical bowling performance, but of course makes it for very boring viewing. In
yeah. I
my
mean,
opinion, because
yeah. I
I
mean,
think our batting is too OP to like anything. I think anything below 250 is like is too easy for us at this point. Like
mm,
we're too stacked in the batting department, and especially in home conditions, all these guys they are really really accustomed to playing here, and it almost gets to a point like it's like come on guys, like make it interesting. And I mean at least it was interesting
mm,
today. I mean we're just recording this episode of course right after the India New Zealand match, and finally we get somewhat of a close game, which
mm.
makes it for interesting viewing. But I mean, we'll come to that soon. For the India Pakistan game itself, of course, after the collapse, I mean, batting was fantastic. I thought maybe Tarun, you can give us your thoughts on the Indian batting performance.
Of course, I mean, Indian batting, I think we've talked a lot about this. It's definitely been quite the standard, like we've set the standard that other teams should try to live up to. From
Hmm.
opening, you have top quality batsmen. I think I'm just pulling up the scorecard, and Rohit Sharma with this very good score, 86
Yep.
of
Did you did,
63
did you
that
guys
match.
see the meme? So I saw a meme where they said first thing Pakistanis cooking vada pav is the first one, and some
Oh,
Pakistani dude making vada pav, and then the next the next scene is Rohit cooking Pakistanis and him just
oh.
sending sixes all over the ground. It was
Mm.
really funny. Yeah, I mean,
Bro,
uh,
honestly, like that was such a huge dude. Like I don't know how to explain it in words, man. Like that batting performance, watching it
yeah,
live, him just pulling Shaheen and Haris Rauf and just coming down the ground, hitting on his Haris Rauf first over. He
yeah,
just came down the ground, hit a six straight down the ground, and then pulled one him to fine leg as well. It's
yeah.
just like the stadium just erupts, man. Like
Bro, I mean, not
it's
even about eruption. I mean, just the size of the sixes. Some of his sixes.
yeah.
There's one he played over cover. I think, which is very
Oh,
maybe
that
un.
was
It's not. I wouldn't
yeah,
say un-Rohit like, but you don't see it from Rohit as common because, of course, we know him for his
yeah.
trademark pull shot, which he purposefully never keeps it down. But that
Mhm.
that shot tells you what kind of nick he's in. Like he is,
Yeah.
and of course we saw that in play today as well against New Zealand, where he played with really no fear. He's like, I mean, whatever, he gets beaten a few balls, next ball hits it for six.
I
You guys
think
would
I
you
think
guys would
the
watch video of that.
strategy for Rohit is very much clear that for him is that he wants to set the tone for the rest of the innings. It doesn't matter if he scores a 50 or 20, but
Yep,
what he does is he scores it at a very good strike rate. And I think that's what he's trying to do, regardless if you're chasing or
yep,
I guess you're batting first. I think batting first, of course, I think he's going to go even more explosive, which unfortunately we haven't had to watch us bat first, which is very disappointing, to be
yep.
honest. 5 games we've played so far, and all five we've chased. Um, but yeah, I think that's a difference in what Rohit used to do. I guess he has changed his mindset to just take on the bowlers and really put pressure on them. And I think that makes a huge difference because if you're 70, 80 odd after 10 overs, you set the tone for the rest of the innings, for the
Yep.
Yeah,
rest of
and
the team to build on.
I think that kind of a mindset change definitely has to also come from the fact that he is being much better supported in the middle order now,
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
like a whole string of dependable batsmen behind him, like behind the openers. You have Kohli, you have Shreyas, KL, Hardik, who is unfortunately injured now,
Yep.
Mm.
Jadeja, and Ashwin when he plays. All this, it's a long list of dependable batsmen who can still keep the run rate up, keep the strike rate up,
Okay.
and
I
I think
mean,
that's why Rohit has that freedom to play more shots now.
for sure, for sure. And I mean, on that point you brought up. So, I mean, of course, I'm not as I mean, as I spoke about it before this episode, we're not going to like talk about it game by game. But just on that topic, since you mentioned batters, we saw today against New Zealand where India did played Shami instead of Shardul Thakur, meaning we now played with five bowlers. Okay, okay. First of all, that was also a forced change because of Hardik Pandya coming, I mean, getting injured, and then you
Mm.
brought in Sky. So that means that after number seven, we don't have any batting,
Yeah.
which kind of tilts it to almost seven batsmen. I mean, Jadeja, I would consider him if he's averaging over 30, he's a batsman. So top seven is batsman, and then you have the next four coming in who are all just pure bowlers who can hold a bat. Let's say, let's just call them. They can hold a bat. That's probably the best they
Mm.
can do. You can't really consider them. At most, the four of them combined can probably give us 30 runs at most. I think that's the realistic expectation of our tail end. Now, if you guys are a selector, is that the best way going forward in the tournament? What do you guys think?
I feel like today's options might have been more geared towards Dharamsala wicket. We want to go in with pace attack.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to keep batting in mind, I definitely think Ashwin should be the obvious answer at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, I
yeah,
mean,
so
I mean, to just play devil's advocate, we have Shardul Thakur, right, as our
uh,
bowling all rounder. So he is. I mean, of course. I mean, don't get me wrong. Shami proved everyone wrong. Well, not everyone wrong. I don't think anyone really doubted him, but
yeah, I don't think
he
anyone
he
doubted
did
him.
prove
Mans came
he
back and took a fiver.
five wicket
He's
haul. Yeah,
definitely put his hat in the ring for like to say that I should be starting every single game,
yep.
and maybe now the selectors are thinking, and maybe Rohit Sharma is thinking that we can afford to go in with one more pure fast bowler in the team, at
Uh-huh.
least for the period that Hardik is out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me set the conditions for you guys to make this argument easier. See, obviously, if it's a turning pitch, Ashwin is definitely going to play. That was the whole point of his selection.
Yeah,
So to make things easier, let's assume that it's not as it's been a non-Chennai wicket. Let's put it that way. The other every other game they've either gone with Thakur. I mean, at most recently they've gone with Shami. So if you guys were the selectors, would you guys select Thakur or Shami? Let's just make it easier for everyone.
Personally, I would go for Shami because I just feel Shami offers a lot more in
Hmm.
terms of with the ball as well. I mean, Thakur
Okay,
does take wickets, but Thakur leaks a lot of runs as well at the same
exactly.
time.
Agreed.
And I can't really be very dependent on him on the bat at least. Like he has not
Hmm.
showed me confidence in the white ball format at least. I guess red ball is more suited to him because he can take his time, settle, and he's
Hmm.
scored some really good scores for us to win us the match in test match. But like
Yeah.
I feel for white ball, you saw it today itself. Like I feel Shami's spell at the depth over saved us a good 30, 40, 50
So
odd
he,
runs.
in my opinion, I'm not sure who the man of the match was in the end of the day.
Yeah,
I mean,
Shami. Yeah,
it was
Shami.
Shami, right? Yeah, well deserved.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they gave it to him because, I mean, honestly speaking, that New Zealand were poised for about 300, 310 easily. I mean, of course, the
Mm.
other bowlers chipped in, like Siraj and Bumrah at the end were fantastic as well. But his wickets, the wicket taking ability, especially at the death, and he's able to nail his Yorkers, nail his full balls. It's
Mm.
it's priceless because those extra wickets at the end curb the run scoring to such an extent. And
Yeah, yeah,
that
absolutely.
that that saves us so much because you don't for example, in today's chase we saw against New Zealand, there wasn't much run rate pressure because we were always able
Mm.
to play at around five
Yeah.
runs, 5 or 6 runs and over, which honestly, if it was a 300 or 310 chase, wouldn't have been so
It
smooth.
would
I
have
mean,
been a bit
honestly,
different for sure.
it would have been a much more different game. And I guess, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, since, okay, I'm guessing Yash, you're going with Shami. What about Tarun? Like, where do you stand on this debate?
yeah, easily Shami for me because I just don't think the runs that Shardul leaks is worth whatever he could potentially contribute with the bat.
Okay.
And on that balance, I would definitely prefer Shami. Like he is, we can say for sure that Shami is going to concede a lot less runs and
Mhm.
look a lot more dangerous as a bowler than Shardul Thakur potentially can.
Fair
And
enough.
Yeah.
I can see Shami getting 10, 15 runs with a bat if it comes
Hmm.
down to him.
Mm.
I can probably see Shardul getting somewhere around the same, maybe 20, 15, 20.
Yeah. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't think Shardul is that much better than Shami in terms of
Yeah,
batting.
I really don't think so.
And honestly, to
And
be fair, Shami can hold the bat a little bit, and not a
Yeah.
yeah,
lot. Like
he
He's
definitely
can
not
probably
as
the
much
best out
as
of the
yeah,
four bowlers in
he
terms of
can
exactly.
he
holding
can
a bat.
swing a bat like his life depends on it. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. He can
yeah,
definitely give a few lusty blows. And I mean, based on today's performance as well, I want to pose another question. Does he get into the top two seamers? Meaning, okay, of course, I'm gonna come make this as bold assumption that, I mean, not putting bold, but I think Bumrah is undroppable, personally.
No,
I think
absolutely.
you
You
guys
can't
concur
drop
definitely.
with
him
this
now.
as well. He
I
is
think
the
the whole
best
of India
bowler.
would attack you if you said Bumrah, like Bumrah is droppable, man.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would drop Bumrah in the right mind, but Siraj. Now, would you guys drop Siraj to play Shami in a let's say I'm just gonna give you a hypothetical scenario. Semi-final, big game. I don't know who we're okay. I'm just gonna assume we're gonna play, I don't know, New Zealand again. Do you play
Mm.
and it's a wicket that where okay, it's a wicket where you either decide to play Shami or Siraj. Who do you choose? Do you guys stick with Siraj or do you guys go with Shami?
So it's a tough one, man. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say personally, I would still go with Siraj.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know Siraj is sometimes a bit capable of leaking runs, but then at the same time, I know like in the power play, when he gets going, like you put the batsman under a lot of pressure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you saw it today as well. Him and Bumrah bowled a really good opening power play spell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying Shami can't do that. I'm sure Shami can, but I feel like he just gives that extra pace and fairness into the opposition, which maybe you might associate with, for example, England having Mark Wood
Yeah.
or Jofra Archer with that pace and fiery bounce which you get.
Mm.
Which Shami gets is what like like the conventional swing and stuff. So it's a bit different, and I feel like Siraj might be better utilized in what he does, and he bowls really good in the middle overs, especially.
Oh yeah. I think that's my point of argument as well because personally I think it's very, very close because Shami honestly hasn't really put a foot wrong in my opinion. Like he
Mm.
hasn't he has been performing whenever he's been given a chance for the blue jersey, and it honestly comes to a very close point. But I think just in terms of how consistent Siraj has been in terms of leading the line in the absence of Bumrah, I think that just pips his value over Shami. But of course, in an ideal situation where you're able to play all paces and it comes down to Shami versus Takul, then of course I'll play Shami. But if it's Shami versus Siraj, I will definitely uh, go on the side of Siraj. Tarun, do you agree with that as well? Do you share the same sentiment?
Yeah, I mean it's a very difficult call to make, I think, but I would probably go with Shami. I
Hmm.
feel like he has been more consistent. He has like just marginally a bit more consistent, and I feel
Yeah.
like he has more to offer both in like uh, power play and the depth as compared to Siraj. But again,
Yeah,
Yep.
I
it's
guess the
very very
only
tight calls for me
yeah, I
both.
guess the only argument you could make is that Shami can do whatever Siraj can, but he can also swing the bat a little bit more.
Yes,
Hmm.
I would say that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fair
I
enough.
mean
Yeah.
Shami's seam placement is just
I mean, it's a joy to watch. It's
so freaking good. I
it
Yeah.
is. I would say something
Mm.
about his thing, but I think it would not be well received with our TNT. I mean, it will be explicit content, so I will not say it out loud. I
Yeah,
will say it
let's
offline later.
skip past that.
We will skip past
Mm.
that. But anyway, I also wanted to just talk about, of course, the GOAT as well, Virat Kohli. I think he played this insane knock against. Okay, not I won't say okay, it's a damn good knock, okay, against Bangladesh. Not an insane knock, but damn good knock. And once again, he almost repeated his heroics against New Zealand today. I mean, how good
Mm.
is he? How good is Virat Kohli, guys? Come on, lay some love on the man.
I mean, I had tears in my eyes watching him score a century live. I'm not even kidding. Like
Yeah.
it's stuff which you dream of. Like I've watched him growing up since I was a kid, 10, 12 years old,
Hmm.
watch him play. And yeah, it's just hello.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh,
You said
sorry.
it's just
All
yeah.
of you was frozen on my screen.
yeah, you froze for a bit there,
Okay,
but
my
yeah, you're
bad.
back.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's okay. Just edit this out, lah.
No, all good. All good. We can keep it in as well. But
Okay, sure.
anyway, I mean, yeah, Kohli was magic. I think even today, like how disciplined he was with how his shots. He didn't play a single shot in anger, and he's just a chase master. And I think Shane Watson said this stat, which is quite mind-boggling. He said that so Kohli, of course, could have made his 49th century today, but in his career, he has made 23 centuries in moments where India are chasing. How insane is
Mm.
that? 23 knocks, 23 tons in chasing scenarios. And you just think about it. Some people don't even I mean, most players don't even get to 23 centuries in their career. This man is making 23 centuries while chasing. And that just tells you like no Dhoni of course I mean I wouldn't say invented, but For India, yes, I think to an extent he invented the role of the finisher, but I think Kohli just has taken it to another level. Of course, he could have. It was unfortunate that he couldn't finish it off today, but I think it's fair to say that you know I wouldn't blame him for I guess hogging the strike a bit to try and get a century because I think he does deserve that level of respect and that level of importance in that sense,
Yeah, like honestly,
and
I couldn't understand like reading on like the social forums why people were criticizing him for being a bit selfish. I
yeah,
mean, the man's won you a lot of game in his entire career, man. The least you can do is play one game for him where you
yeah.
already know the match has already been won. And yeah, I mean, people talk about net run rate and stuff, this and that, but if we are winning all games, does the net run rate even matter at the end?
I
Honestly,
mean,
like,
I mean, just to play devil's advocate again, today's match, for example, like he of course went for the big shot, trying to go for a century. Interestingly, if imagine something like 2015 Stark happened, where you remember if you guys remember the New Zealand Australia game where
mm,
Stark just ripped through the tail. Remember, he got a
yeah,
hat
yeah.
trick, and then I think Kane Williamson won it with a six at the end, and New Zealand won it by 1 wicket. So
Mm.
in that sense, if let's say that had happened today, where Trent Bolt maybe let's say just ripped through our tail, and Shami, Bumrah, Kuldeep all go in a heap, and Jadeja's maybe stranded in the other end.
Mm.
Would you think? I mean, of course that didn't happen, but it's of course you leave the risk of that happening by, in a sense, being somewhat selfish, and I put in a very, very, I put it in a very heavy coat of being selfish, because I would still argue that, if you look at the percentage game, it's still a safe percentage game to go for that shot. But of course, in an alternate universe that could have happened as well, where we could be exposing our tail as well. So in that sense, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that it's justified for him to play that way?
I think for me, I would say this for certain is that if Kohli has even an inch of doubt that we cannot win this match, he himself wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm,
He himself would play for the country first before playing for his own milestone. And you saw
mm-hmm.
that as well. If you read the post-match interview, he spoke with KL, and
Yeah,
KL was the one who told him like, "Let's do this." Like he
yeah.
didn't even have it in his mind to, go for this 100. And
Mm-hmm,
like I'm certain, like yeah, for sure, there's a bit of a risk, but he's such a he's over 200, 300 plus games in international cricket, so
mm-hmm,
I'm pretty sure he has that much of experience to know when and when not to, think about his own personal milestone. So
mm-hmm,
I trust him with that. And if sometimes it fails, if it ever does fail, you know,
mm-hmm.
it happens, I guess, you can't fault him. Of course, if it happens at a really big stage, let's say like a semi-final and stuff,
Yeah.
then yeah, then that's of course a bit I think that would get a lot of criticism. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't think if those were the stakes that would even happen in the first place. That's what I feel.
Yep. I think that's fair. Tarun, you share the same sentiment, or do you want to play devil's
Yeah, like
advocate with
I
me?
definitely don't think you can blame him at this point. Like
Uh-huh.
he has done enough to warrant the century both matches. So
Yeah.
I see no fault with him going for it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we did have a team, like a remaining tail that was capable of at least playing a single and rotating the strike to Jadeja to
Getting
finish it
five
off.
runs basically, yeah.
Yeah, like 5 runs. I think they would have managed it. I don't
Yeah.
think we would have seen anything
I mean,
too
it would have
drastic.
just been very funny. I would
Yeah,
like if that
it would have
happened.
been absolutely nerve-wracking if we lost like 3 wickets in quick
I mean
succession.
that's just throwing back to the India of old, where we always win. We these kind of matches we come close in the chase, like we're cruising, and then we'll lose some wickets right at the end, but then we'll somehow get over the line. Like that's the
Hmm.
classic old India we're probably used to watching in the olden days. But yeah, I guess that didn't quite happen today. It is a positive sign for sure. Like the fact that we won, I would say relatively comfortably against the Kiwis,
Hmm.
and of
Yeah,
course we
but
are
just
looking. Yeah,
just before we move on from Kohli, I think he's a player who has been through quite a bit of rough times with
hmm,
captaincy, going out of form and everything.
yeah,
There's been a lot of ups and downs in his career, a bit
yeah.
of downs
I
recently,
mean,
but I
mostly
think
ups,
he's
I would say, but
yeah,
yeah,
mostly
downs
ups,
more
but
recent.
like
Mostly up, but
recently it's
yeah.
it's been a bit unsteady and things. But the
Hmm.
way he's come back in the last year, 2 years, and
Yep,
especially this World Cup, and he's just proven all the doubters wrong, and I think
for sure.
that is so amazing.
Yep.
And just like when you talk about Kohli, I don't think finisher is a term that is often associated with him. I think that's mostly because he plays at number three. You don't see a number three batsman typically being a finisher,
Mm-hmm.
especially because Dhoni, the trademark finisher for India,
Mm-hmm.
was not a number three batsman. So I think it's amazing how he has like redefined that perception of a finisher, and
Yep.
I am all in for seeing more of this Kohli.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point and a good point that you raised actually. I think he certainly has changed the landscape of finishing as we know it. And I don't
Yeah,
think
like he,
to be fair, even though he has redefined that role, I don't think anyone has really come close to emulating it in such a consistent basis as he has done.
oh,
And
definitely not.
at
It
least
takes a
at
lot
least
of
in the current generation of players.
yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of consistency. It takes a lot of stamina to get through those overs to a
Yep.
point where you can finish it off from number three. And of course, it takes a lot of discipline. And I don't think we have we have seen any players who are equally good with all three of those aspects.
Yep. I think that's very well put, Tarun.
I just want to add on
Um
that
yes, please,
when
please.
Kohli got his 100, or when he was trying to get his 100,
Yep.
as selfish as he was, right? Every single or double, whatever it took, was the loudest ever cheer I've ever heard.
Yep.
Like, it's crazy. Even when he didn't take a single, he hit to like whatever square leg or mid off wherever he didn't take a
Mhm.
single. It was the loudest cheer ever, and that's just like I have it all on video. This last two was fully on video, and it's stuff which you dream of, man. Like
Mhm.
it's really nice to witness it live. Yeah.
For sure, man, for sure. I mean, I completely I was there as well when I watched India Australia, and yeah, I mean his fan following and very well deserved, by the way. His fan following is insane, and I'm glad I was part. I had the chance to be a part of it live. Yep. And of course, since okay, not since we've covered quite a bit about India, so let's try and cover the other teams a little as well. And on that part, I think we witnessed two giant killings in the World Cup, and I think we should unpack that a little. What about the Afghanistan win, boys, like, over England? What a win that was! I mean, it was really, really impressive. Personally, what do you guys think about
England are just in the mud right now, man.
that?
They
They
are
really
Yeah,
are.
I
absolutely in
thought
the
it
mud.
was like a
Was it more
one-off
England? I mean, do you guys think
massive
is it
result.
more England being bad, or was it more
Bro,
Afghanistan?
England's just ass, man.
Yeah, I think
I'm
England
sorry, I'm just saying it out
very,
loud
very
right
bad
now.
at this point.
Okay, I don't think our,
Uh,
our viewers would have come this far in the episode for us to bleep this out anyway.
like, dude, I watched them live
Yeah.
yesterday, and dude, they were just like, first of all, they made the call to bowl first in a stadium which is absolutely
Hmm.
small, where you
Yep.
can just lift the mark put
Sorry
at the
about
end
that.
of the innings. Sorry?
No, no, sorry. I think you cut off in my. I had some interruptions. Yeah. Please
Yes.
continue.
No, I was just saying that like England's just in the mud right now. Like
Hmm.
they made so many bad decisions and calls. Like first of all, they chose to, I think, just going out of the Afghan game a bit. I mean,
Hmm.
the Afghan game was just like they just couldn't bat well. And I
Yep.
think this World Cup, their problem has just been batting. Like even yesterday against South Africa, they got demolished.
Hmm.
Literally, they were like 78 for 8. And then you had a partnership of Gus Atkinson and Mark Wood hitting fours and sixes,
Yeah, that was quite fun to watch.
bringing,
Not gonna lie.
yeah, it was very fun to watch, bringing them up to like 170 odd to save a
Yep.
bit of face. But I mean, they still lost by 229 runs, so there's
Yeah, that was a
no face to
Not
crushing
not
be.
victory.
much
Yeah,
face saved.
yeah, exactly. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with their batting, man. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just
It's
lost for
quite bad,
words.
but I mean, also, I mean, since we're talking the topic of giant killings, I still think we have to give credit to Afghanistan for playing a wonderful game. I think overall, I'm not even going to talk about just their bowling. It was not even batting as well. Like some of
Hmm.
their senior players stood up. Like I mean, not really senior in terms of experience, I would say.
Yeah.
Ramanullah Gurbaz, who we all know from the IPL, playing for KKR, he played a stellar knock of 80 or 50 of 57. I mean, honestly speaking, if he hadn't gotten run out, he would have easily made a century and
Oh yeah. Dude, he
potentially.
was so furious when he got run out.
Yep, yeah,
He
I heard
smashed
he
the
I heard he
chance.
smashed it against the
Yeah,
advertising boards or something.
yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, he was unstoppable. It was really a knock. Like he was possessed. And the matter of fact is, if England hadn't gotten that lucky break with the run out, probably Afghanistan might have gone over 300. And from that, it would have been even been a more crushing win for Afghanistan. And of course, they also, I mean, they, I think the problem, okay, not the problem, I guess Afghanistan, for them to really go to the next level, is to find more consistency in performances like these. In terms of their batting, if you look at their batting itself, right? Um, it was Gurbaz and Ikram, the keeper, who really stood up and performed on the day itself. But I think if you look at the other matches as well, they
Yeah.
don't have these batsmen stepping up on a regular basis, and
They
I think
need
that's what.
contributions from all the way from the top.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there were certain matches which they did post decent scores, like against India, for example, 270 was okay, but of course in that Ferozshah Kotla pitch, I mean, it's not called Ferozshah Kotla, it's called Arun Jetli or something. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, in that pitch, I think like maybe that wasn't enough, but I think when their batsmen make starts, I think they need to capitalize and make it into a big score, which is probably where they are falling short in terms of putting performances like against England more often in the tournament. I think that's why they're falling short. But I think they do have a lot of opportunities in future games to actually maybe make a dent or two. I think semifinal will be a bit out of reach for them, but I think they will. I don't think England will be the only scalp they take from this tournament. I think there'll be a few more scalps along the way.
Mm.
Watch out Sri Lanka. Watch out Bangladesh. Watch out Pakistan.
I mean, well, you should say watch out Pakistan. They're playing Pakistan tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's true. That's a good match. That should be a firecracker of
Mm.
a match, and it's happening in Ahmedabad as well. I'm one. Hey, just
No, no,
curious.
no.
You have
That's
followed?
happening in Chennai.
Is it? I thought it was Ahmedabad. I think it was Ahmedabad.
It's
Wait, let
Chennai.
me. Oh, it's Chennai. Okay, okay, got it.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
So it favors
Because.
Afghanistan as well because their spin is quite potent. So it'll be quite an
Oh yeah,
interesting
that'll be good.
match.
And yeah, I mean, sorry, I didn't speak much about the spinners, but I think the spinners were fantastic against England. They deserve their wickets. Rashid Khan, of course, household name, and Mujib was fantastic. And I thought the pacers supported them very nicely as well. They have this left arm pacer. I'm not sure what's his name. I think Fazal or something. Faruqi.
Yeah, Fazal.
Faruqi, I think. Yeah, I thought he bowled really well. And just overall, I thought it was a very good all-round team performance. And for me, I would just love to see that. I know it's very difficult to defeat it. They defeated the world champions, guys. It's like to put it out there. Like we talk about it like it's like, we wanted to be more consistent, but took nothing away from the fact they defeated the defending world champions. Like that is something. And if you think about it, a lot of players who won the 2019 World Cup are still playing in this year's World Cup as well. Joss Butler, who of course was a keeper in 2019 edition, he's the captain this time. We have Ben Stokes, and we have plenty of other names who were in the squad for the 2019 World Cup as
You
well.
know what's the irony though? Because at
Yeah,
the start of the World Cup, Butler said that we are not defending anything. It's clear that they're not defending anything.
they're not defending anything. I mean,
clearly
yeah, I
not.
think that's clear. That's very well put there. Yeah, they're really really bad, and I think I mean a lot of things are going wrong for them, and I think rightly so. Batting is one of probably their main disasters.
Even their
And
bowling,
speaking,
man, like their main bowlers are getting tonked. Like Mark Wood has been conceding 70, 80, 90 odd runs.
Mhm.
I think it
So
might just be a case of them not being able to play to the conditions because ultimately, no matter how pace friendly or no matter how flat the track is in India, it's still an Indian pitch. And it's still
Yep.
probably putting them at a disadvantage in terms of how the bowlers are going to read the pitch and bowl and how the batsmen are seeing the ball come to them. So
yeah, I mean
maybe
it's
that's
just
that's
poor
something which
I
execution.
think conditions is a big part of it. I don't think they're
yeah, I don't
probably the
think they
best
are
players of spin.
supposed to
I
be
think
this bad.
yeah, for sure. I think Tarun is a good point, but I think the bowling per se hasn't been the worst in the world. I think they've put in some decent bowling performances, but I think it's more the batting where like they really,
Yeah,
really
arguably
fall
their
short.
bowling has been better than their batting, but it's not
Yeah.
a very high bar to.
Yep, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
they're not
but
playing like world champions for sure.
yeah, but to be honest, can you like if you're saying the bowling has been decent, you still wouldn't want your decent bowling to be considering 400 runs, huh?
Yep. I
And,
mean,
and
they
Yeah.
got tongue for 399 against South Africa. That was
yeah,
fantastic to watch, by the way.
bro, I was watching it live and it's just crazy, like how Janssen and Klaassen were just
Yeah.
tonking the ball, taking on Wood and Atkinson, Topley as well, who's now out of the World Cup, by the way. He's broken his finger.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah,
I
things
mean,
just going worse for England.
bad towards. I personally don't see them getting into the semis.
Bro,
But of
I
course, I
had
mean,
India England as the final. What a
yeah, I mean,
shout
it's
that
not happening,
was.
bro. I mean, you can enjoy
Yeah,
the
I
match in
don't think
Lucknow.
that's
You're going for
happening.
the match in Lucknow, right? Against
Yeah,
India
yeah,
and
I'm going to the
England.
match next week.
Yeah, you can have fun with that match, man. But I think that's probably the one of the last times you see England
Oh
live.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but on that note, I mean, since we talked about South Africa as well, I mean, they lost to Netherlands initially. That was a shock defeat. I think none of us saw it coming. Netherlands have been playing. I honestly think Netherlands have been playing pretty decently. Some of the matches they probably
Mm,
deserve more than they got. You can actually. I think what's a good reflection of their performance so far in the World Cup is actually their net run rate. If you look at it, they're actually pretty decent. They're not like negative. They're only like negative 0.79 or something. They're not like
right.
meaning they're not the worst playing team in terms of getting tonked by a large margin or something like that. But they're actually
Mm,
running games a lot. For large parts of the game, they are in the contest. Like even against Pakistan, for example, or many other teams, they were still in the contest. So I think that's something that they could take positives from it. And of course, against South Africa, that translated into a very, very big performance.
mm.
Personally, I thought it was a bit of a shocker from South Africa. Like none of us expected that, right? Like
Yeah.
these
Of
guys
course, yeah.
were
This is the other underdog match that we were discussing. So yeah, obviously, I
Mhm.
don't think anyone saw
yeah,
Netherlands
it really wasn't.
getting
And
any sort of result against one of the
and
most dominant teams so far.
exactly. And I mean, okay, it just proves two things. Anybody can be anybody. Second thing, South Africa and chokers. And I think
I
that
mean,
just
cricket
tells
is a
us time
funny
and
game
again.
at the end of the
It,
day.
it is, it is, it really is like to lose in that manner, like where, I honestly think they were comprehensively beaten against the Netherlands, like in all
Mm.
departments. And
Yeah, they were.
must have been a real blow hit to the gut because prior to that, they were flying, they scored 428 against Sri Lanka.
I mean, they bounced back very well, scoring 399
Oh,
against
for sure,
England.
for sure. They played a
Yeah.
fantastic game against England, but it's just that that one hiccup. I guess it's good that they got it
Mm.
out of the way early on. Maybe it could be potentially the only loss of the tournament. That'll be. I mean, I wouldn't really
Mm.
mind a South Africa World Cup win. That would be pretty cool. But it's of
I wouldn't
course.
mind an India South Africa final. Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, I'm still yet to see what the reaction will be in an Indian stadium where if India lose. I'm quite curious to see what happens. But
We were
anyway,
we were close to seeing that today, I think.
oh, we were. I mean, but I still think we were pretty
Yeah,
much in
in the end,
control.
in the end, it was comfortable, but there was
There were
definitely a
some
few
moments which were
moments where
nervy,
we
for
were
Mm.
like,
sure, for sure.
"Oh, okay, first one."
I just want to say this tweet. I saw someone said it online. So it says
Uh-huh.
that across the 2000 like 22 T20 World Cup and 23 this World Cup, South Africa have beaten India, Australia, and England, but then they've lost to Netherlands at both the occasions.
Yeah,
Basically, what they're doing is they're taking the like 3 points from the big teams and giving it to associate nations.
exactly the
Yep,
Robin Hood
the
way.
Robin Hood of the ICC.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. But I actually think they're on that day they can beat any team. And to be honest with you guys, I think losing against Netherlands this early in the tournament is actually not such a bad thing for them because
Mm.
at least they get this loss out of the way and they're back to tonking and I mean they're
Yeah.
they're, they're scary.
Definitely,
They're
I
like
think.
sorry, go ahead, finish yours.
Yeah, no, I think the Netherlands match was definitely a big wake up call for them, and you could see it
Mm,
in how ferocious they came out against
England.
England. So
Mm.
And I mean,
Talking
yes, I
about
mean,
England, that just reminds me, right? So because I was in the stadium and
yeah,
England were like 78 for 8 or some shit like that. So I was basically going down to get some water, and there was a bit of a queue, so I was just waiting for myself to get down. And there was this British bloke who was sitting on the seat beside me. He was tweeting, okay, literally live. He was saying, this is an absolute effing embarrassment. I should have instead stayed in a pub and enjoyed a couple pints of beer. That was his tweet.
I mean,
And
I think it's just reminiscent of how most England supporters were feeling
Yeah.
after watching that dismal
Dude,
performance.
I'm telling you, half the stadium left. They left early because they knew the
I'm
match
surprised
was
they even
done.
stayed that long, but okay. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's they are bad, but I just want to talk about how good South Africa are actually, because they've
Mm,
managed to beat up Australia. They properly beat up Australia. Sri Lanka,
yeah.
of course, we know their bowling isn't great, so they of course thrashed them as well. And then they go on to, absolutely thump the world champions by 229
Yeah.
runs. I mean, that tells you the quality they have in their squad, and on paper they might not seem like, I guess, as good as maybe previous editions of South African teams. Throughout history, South Africa have always been strong. They've always just choked mentally, but maybe
Yeah.
this might be the formula and key to their success. Because
I
they
actually think
don't.
they have a very balanced team at the
They
moment.
do, they do, and the thing is, I don't think they have stars like maybe in previous editions. They've had like Jacques Kallis or AB de Villiers, or someone who is like always regarded as world class quality, or like
Yeah.
I think they do have some good, really really good players like Quinton de Kock.
Mhm.
You have Aiden Markram, who's been in insane form recently. And of course you have Klaassen at the end, who's like, I think I feel Klaassen is, I don't know if you can call him underrated, but I guess he's someone that, if you're going to get a big total, he's probably going to play a big role in that.
Yeah,
Like
one
he's
thing which I
probably.
would say is that for South Africa is that a lot of some of their players who are coming up the ranks, they are not like, let's say, world class established in that sense that, they're not a big name. Like when you think of Marco Janssen, you
Yep.
don't associate him as Hardik Pandya, for example,
Yep.
or you don't associate him as like Ben Stokes. But what he did with England was exactly what Ben Stokes would do.
Yep.
Bowls absolutely well. He scored what, 75 odd in like 40 something balls.
Yep.
And you didn't know that, hey, this guy could bat so well. Like I didn't know this guy
Exactly.
could bat so well.
No, I mean, he
And
proved all his haters. I don't think he's actually scored that much before in
no, I
ODI
think that's
game.
probably his highest score so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like my point being is that with all these players who are sort of unknown quantities, there's a bit less pressure on them to perform. And as a
Yeah.
result, they're able to deliver it better. Whereas if you're a big name, that pressure comes. And that's
Hmm.
where I guess you see the choking mentality of South Africa, where like De Villiers failed sometimes, or like Duplessis failed sometimes across the
Yep.
previous editions of the World Cup.
No, I mean that's yeah. I think that's hitting the nail on what I was saying as well. Um, but yeah, I think South Africa are definitely a force to be reckoned with this World Cup. But I think it also depends on whether or not they play their best game on the day. I think if they play their best game, I think even India are going to find it difficult, because I would say right now, I think India, South Africa, New Zealand look like one of the strongest teams in the tournament. I think
Would you say those
it's.
three are the teams who are definitely going to go through?
I predicted at the start it'll be India, New Zealand, South Africa, and Pakistan. I'm going to stick with that prediction. Of course,
Yeah.
I think one team that might change it is probably Australia, because they've come on this recent revival. I mean, of course, with the Aussies, we always expect them to do a revival, but I thought, particularly the game against Pakistan, that was a really nice game. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it last week. Actually, not last week; it was Friday. So yeah,
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it watching on Friday. I think it was a cracker of a game. So, both their openers going ham, literally ham. They were had a 257 run partnership, I think, and
Mm.
yeah, it was a delight to watch, and good to see that Mitchell Marsh got a century on his birthday. It was a nice birthday present for him. He's turning 32, and
Second
of course
century
Dave.
only, I think.
Is it? Oh yeah, probably a second
Yeah.
century. But
Mm.
it was good to see him get a century. I mean, on his birthday.
Yeah.
And David Warner as well, brilliant. And I think maybe they could have gotten a 400 plus score. Maybe cause for concern is the fact that they couldn't capitalize on the start their openers provided for them. Pakistan brought the game back nicely, and honestly, Pakistan this season, or rather this World Cup, some of their chasers have been really good. And honestly, this is what I wanted to see them do against us in the India Pakistan game, where they actually go up and make a big score, and at least come make the game interesting. And I thought they really did, because for some parts of the game in that chase against Australia, they looked like they could pull it off. Like they really did, because they always in a chase, like when you're chasing about 360 odd, you need to keep wickets in hand, and they did do that for large parts of the game. And I think probably where the game change was, um when they
Sam Park had one.
lost. Sorry.
It's when Zampa came on, he got the wicket of Rizwan.
Yeah, Rizwan, yes. And I think they also lost like Iftikhar at some point. I think that
Yeah,
that changed the
50.
game as well a little because I think I still think when Iftikhar and Rizwan were batting together, they still were in the game. As much as it was difficult. Both Rizwan and Iftikhar were getting away the boundaries at regular intervals, so they still had the chase at arm's length. It was still not. I mean, it was tough. Don't get me wrong. At 360, you need most things to go right, very little to go wrong. And for large parts, it did go right for them. But I think they they needed someone else aside from Rizwan to. They needed Babar to perform on a big day. I feel like they really desperately need a big score from Babar Azam. And
He's been
when
in
he
quite a
gets,
bit of a slump right now, apart from scoring that 50 against India.
yeah, I think so too. And I think like he needs to his form will also determine Pakistan's progression throughout the tournament. I think because they've honestly on their day, if they turn up, they can also beat any side in the team. I mean, any side in the whole World Cup. We saw them chase down 350 against Sri Lanka. Was it 350? Sorry, three
Yeah,
three
345 or something.
345
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah, because the fact is they're good enough to chase big totals, and on their day they can beat any opposition. So for me, it's like
Mm.
it's going to be very, very close. That fourth spot, I feel like it's going to be one of Pakistan, Australia, maybe some other dark horse. Like I don't know, who else is there? I don't think England. I think England personally are out of the race. Um,
England really need to win all the 5 games in hand
yeah,
now
and it's tough
to
games. I
eliminate.
mean, they're not easy. They
They're
have to
playing
face
India next. Yeah,
they're playing
Australia as
India.
well.
They have Australia left. Pretty sure. Who else have they? I'm pretty sure they've not. Okay, I guess Netherlands. You can say they can win them, but
Yeah.
um, I still feel it's a
It's not an
very
easy
big.
fixture list.
It's not. I think they've lost some of the games heavily. They got thrashed by New Zealand. They got
Yeah.
thrashed by South Africa. So it really does make it that much of a more difficult mountain to climb. In that sense. And I
Yeah.
personally think England are not in any position to make the top four. So for me, I'm just going to stick with my. I mean, I know we didn't ask for predictions, but I mean, just on the topic, I feel like it's going to be between India, New Zealand, and South Africa who make up the top three. And then the fourth place will be probably shared between either Pakistan or Australia. If it goes in line with my prediction, I think it should be Pakistan. But we shall see because of course the Aussies are really strong, and after I think they've seemed to have brushed off the first two games and they've bounced back quite nicely. So it all depends as to whether or not they're able to continue this resurgence in form, and you never know.
For me,
Mm.
the main difference I feel between Australia and Pakistan is going to be the middle order.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I feel like both teams are kind of having some issues with the middle order. Like when it starts collapsing, it collapses too
Yeah,
quickly, and
they fall like a pack
whichever
of
team
cards.
sorts
Yeah.
that out first is going to get in the top four. That's
Yep.
that's it. Yeah,
I think that's fair. Yeah, and I think they've
I think
both
they have both
shown a
similar issues as well, where their spin is not really working.
yeah, correct. Both of them
yep,
came in quite spin
Yeah.
light.
yep, and
I
they
don't,
dropped
it's
Shadab against Shadab against Australia as well. They brought in the other guy, other leggy. I forgot what's the name.
Usmamir.
Usma Mir.
Usmamir.
Sorry, Usma Mir. Yeah, I mean, I think bowling wise he was better than Shadab for sure, but he doesn't offer as much with the bat. And I think again
Mm.
in the chase they did fall short a little because of that. Perhaps Shadab, of course, but Shadab is also not in the greatest of form. So again, like Tarun pointed out, I think it comes down to the middle order taking more responsibility. And of course, I also feel to an extent for Pakistan, especially, I think it really depends on Babar because really Babar has been a spearhead for a lot of big victories. I mean, in recent years for Pakistan. So
Mm.
I think his
I'm
getting
not
the
sure
best out of him.
it's
Mm.
yeah, I'm not sure it's just Barber for me, but like they have a very solid top four, top five, and they need maybe like four of them to perform. So like if Barber performs, then maybe Rizwan doesn't have to get a big score. But definitely you need like four of the five to
You
get
need a
a
big conversion,
solid
basically. You
score.
need a big 100.
Yeah,
Like I think for teams who manage to score 300 plus, you need someone to put the hand up and play an innings deep. And
for
so far,
sure.
I think Rizwan has done that well. But
Yeah, Rizwan has done that. I
yeah,
think Barber has not quite managed that, and probably neither of the openers have really
yeah,
made it
and
that
they
deep.
come up with good starts, by the way. Like
Yeah,
I
they do. They
mean,
do.
Mm.
they really do.
This
And
Imam ul Haq and Shafiq, both of them have been
Abdullah Shafiq, yeah.
Abdullah
Abdullah
Shafiq,
Shafiq, yeah.
yes.
I mean,
Both
both
of
of
them
them.
have
Abdullah
been
Shafiq is a
excellent.
classic batsman. I mean, I
Yeah.
really love watching Abdullah Shafiq bat, honestly speaking. He's so elegant to watch. Yeah, he's younger than all of us, by the way. What are we doing with our live boys?
We are on a podcast criticizing him. Okay,
Yep.
not criticizing. I think both of them have
I,
been doing
I,
a great job.
I think they've been doing well, but I just think, yeah, I think they're just missing that element of, taking it deep. 50 over cricket, I think, exposes you if you're not able to play a really long innings. It's not just
Mm.
about T20 cricket where you're able to score in short bursts, but really play a long innings. And I think, I guess in that sense, teams should learn from India. I never thought I would say that, but
Mm.
yeah, for once, I hope I don't jinx it, but we're doing pretty well. I think in terms of building innings, some of our batsmen have really done a great job and not throwing away. I would say that we're not throwing away our wickets as much. And I think that's a template for other teams to think of using in terms of taking the game deep. And
Yeah, but one thing I would just like to say is we still haven't batted first, so I don't know how it's
Mm.
gonna look like when we bat first.
yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. But I also think getting chases out of the way early is also a good practice for us because I think batting first is not as much pressure as bowling first, personally. Because
Mm.
I still feel chasing, especially in a big tournament, poses its own challenges. Like it's very different versus batting first. Of course, when you're bowling, it's different. But I always feel the team batting second is under more pressure because you have to get those runs. Versus, of course, I know you can always argue the flip side, but personally, I just feel it puts a lot of pressure when you're batting second. So in that sense, I think it's a positive that we are batting more often second. But I think, yeah, like Yash said, probably we need to see how well we do when we do bat first, and I think that's probably going to come sooner rather than later.
Mm.
Yep. All right. I think we've more or less, I think, covered most of the matches we wanted to cover. And of course, with that out of the way, we'll now be moving on to our Instagram fan segment, which is the shouts from the stands. So, in case you guys are not familiar with this, it's basically a segment on Instagram we do on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, I guess, where we ask you a question on anything. I mean, right now it's cricket season, so we'll be asking you more cricket-related questions. So there'll be a question on Instagram, and you guys just have to reply to the story, and then some of the selected answers will be featured on our show. So, of course, Tarun will be conducting that segment today. So, Tarun, please take it away.
Yes, so for this version of Shots from the Stands, the question we asked was, who has been the best ever World Cup winning captain throughout Cricket World Cup history and why? So we had overwhelming responses, of course, as usual.
Yeah,
Um,
always. Yes.
of course, and 100% of the responses have mentioned Ricky Thomas Ponting as your greatest ever World Cup winning captain. So let's look at some of the things that you guys have said. And
Mhm,
from O Bala Chow, friend of the show,
mhm.
yes, Ponting 2003, specific year.
Okay.
So you guys know exactly what he's talking about.
Mhm,
Ponting 2003 on how he handled the Shin Wan crisis.
mhm.
And from Ruhan, also a friend of the show,
Yep.
Ricky Ponting, the guy went undefeated in two World Cups, especially with an outgoing 2017.
Yep. And I think both of them have been spot on in terms of talking about Ricky Ponting. I personally feel he's the best captain the game has ever seen. Of course, you feel free to disagree with me, but um, I think to do what he did with that Aussie side, they they were world champions for. He has won three World Cups as a player and two as captain. Just think about that. Let that sink in. Players hardly like we have so-called gods like Sachin who has been playing for India for such a long time since he was 16. Yet he's only had one World Cup to show for it. I'm not saying it's his fault, but I'm just talking about how immense of an impact Ponting has managed to have on this Aussie side for three World Cups. And I think that's something that very few players have the opportunity or even the ability to do it. So for me, Ricky Ponting, yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. I think in terms of other ODI captains, which I can think of, you know, who who can be considered in the list. Of course, Dhoni comes under it because Dhoni won us the World Cup after 28 long years. But again, I would still say disclaimer: it's a home World Cup. We it does play to our strengths in some sense, but I'll take nothing away from the win. It's a win is still a win. I have to give Dhoni credit. Any other shouts, guys? Any other captains that come spring to mind for you guys?
I think you can also give shout to maybe Kapil Dev for
Yep.
the 1983 World Cup because I
Hmm.
think if you think about what like we talk about how dominant the Aussies were in the 03, 07 era and stuff,
Yep.
that's the exact same or even greater dominance the West Indies showed in those years. And India as a nation who were nowhere near a cricketing nation back then,
Yep.
as it is today, somehow managed to lift the World Cup by beating the West Indies twice in the World Cup
Yep.
as well. I mean that's a magnificent feat. I mean, of course, it's just one World Cup is won.
Hmm.
But I feel like you also have to take the context into consideration of what he did with the team, how he led them to World Cup, and even his own performances when the team was 9 for 4 or whatever it was
Yep.
against Zimbabwe, to score 175 or whatever it was.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, you got to give him a shout as well, to as one of the greatest ODI World Cup captains.
Yep. I think that's fair. And of course, if you want to look back at the archives a bit more, I think the 70s West Indies side, they were forced to be reckoned with as well. I mean, my dad, I
Of
mean,
course,
I wasn't even born then, but
yeah, I don't think
my
any
dad
of
used,
us watched it. Probably our dads would have
yep,
been
yep. I mean,
kids
this is
watching it.
just what from purely from what my dad used to tell me. Like they used to go to Australia and beat them up 5-0. Like, I mean, there's just, and their fast bowlers, they used to, use their boot and then hit it against the advertising board just to intimidate, the fans. And of course, you can imagine, if racism is this bad in this day and age, imagine how bad it was in the 70s. So, of course, this was their response to, some of the chants that were hurled at them, and, fair play, they took their sort of anger and trying to get back at the fans on the field. And I think fair play. I think and on that sense, since you're talking about captains, I think Clive Lloyd has to be mentioned. He won 2 consecutive World Cups, and at one point, West Indies were unbeatable. They were the I would say the modern day Australia. I mean, not right now. Maybe Australia not as strong. Maybe the modern okay, but today's day and age, India, uh, 07, 03 Australia. I think that's like the equivalent of West Indies back then. And yeah, I think fair enough, fair play. I mean, they were just, and this was a time when bats weren't as big, and you had some flamboyant players like Viv Richards, you know, and a few other guys who, of course, I know I'm waffling a bit here because obviously I'm not too familiar with 70s cricket, but you guys
Because
get
I
the
mean,
point anyway.
when you talk about West Indies, it's
Yeah.
the bowling attack, the fearsome bowling
Oh yeah,
attack
yeah,
that
the bowling
always,
Michael
attack.
Holding.
Michael
yeah.
Holding. Yeah, just to name. I mean, there was what's his name? Shit, slipping my mind right now. Courtney Walsh was much later, right? Yeah,
Much later, yeah.
yeah. There was a was it Joel Garner? Joel Garner, yeah, or
Ghana,
Joel
Ghana,
Garner.
yeah.
yes.
Garner, yes, Joel Garner, yes, yes, yes. Okay, at least I got a name right. So, and this is without any reference, by the way, it's off memory. So at least give me some credit, guys.
Of
But
course, yeah,
yeah,
I think we are sufficiently qualified to run a cricket podcast now.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this was not part of the assessment to join the podcast to know about 70s cricket, but at least the fact that we were able to identify some players, I think should be given some credit for that. But yeah, I think, and I've also heard about this. I think 87, Alan Border took over
Mm.
captaincy, I think, for Australia. And I think there was a time when, I think Australian cricket was going through a tumultuous time where their previous captain apparently resigned. This is
Mm.
just something I've heard about. And I think he sort of took over the leadership, and he brought Australia to new heights. And
Yeah, I think he just resigned before the World Cup or something,
yeah.
if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yep, and Alan Border just found himself a sudden captain, like out of nowhere, and I think that was also a pretty impressive captaincy feat. Yeah, I guess we would be able to comment on it better if had we actually been following. I mean, had we
Yeah.
actually even been born back then? But of course, this is just based off, and I think just from the stories alone, it sounds like that sounds like a really really challenging thing to do. Imagine having, I mean, I can only think of it like having imagine. Rohit resigning tomorrow, and then maybe getting Shubman Gill as captain. Some
Mhm.
young, not as experienced guy to captain and winning the World Cup. That's probably some to an extent what he did. So definitely Alan Border is someone we can consider as well. Of course, we've covered quite a bit of captains in that sense. We'll just go around the table once, asking who your pick is. Please don't say all pointing, guys. Just try to have some variety. So, I myself will try and stick to that, and I'm probably gonna stick with, uh, I guess, Clive Lloyd for me. 70s. The
Mhm.
fact that West Indies were that much of a dominant force that early on when cricket was still in its classical phase. So, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
probably stick with Clive Lloyd. What about you guys?
I'm going for Kapil Dev.
Yeah, for as reasons Yash mentioned earlier, and Tarun, last but not least.
I'm going for the guy who went down the ground, who went out of the ground.
Yep,
Dhoni.
that's MSD.
Mm.
Yep, and I think that's probably wrapping up this segment. And thank you once again for your active participation in Shots from the Stands. I know we joke about the overwhelming responses, but even one response to us guys, it makes our day. Honestly, it shows us that you guys are engaged and you guys enjoy the content we're putting out. So please do look out for more such opportunities. It should be coming out on a weekly basis, at least for the World Cup. So do look out for the next edition of the Shots from the Stands, and we look forward to your responses and have them featured on our show. So with that, we probably come to the end of the show as well. Thank you once again if you made it this far. You're a true G, true TNT fan. And we're really glad that you've been showing us lots of love and support the past few episodes. I haven't checked the views yet, but of course I know that some of you guys have told me personally as well that you guys really enjoyed the show, and I really appreciate your feedback. And do let us know if there's anything else we can improve on, or anything else you'd like to see on the show. We'd be more than happy to consider having that as well. And with that, we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Next Team podcast, guys. Bye bye.
Ciao,
Yeah.
guys.